Good evening, Facebookers and YouTubers. This is your brother Obadiah here with another episode of Uncovering Hebrew Roots. In this episode, we're going to highlight or break down the Gentiles. There's confusion about who are really Gentiles. In the Old Testament, when the word Gentiles was used, everyone knew it was talking about nations other than Israel. However, when the New Testament was being written, and Paul is using the term Gentile, he is not always referring to strange nations. He is oftentimes referring to scattered Hebrew Israelites who had forsaken the Torah, and they have become known as Gentiles. And that's caused a lot of confusion over the years. And for this reason, a lot of preachers and pastors continue to teach false doctrine because they don't understand Paul's letters and they don't understand who are actually Gentiles. So this was inspired by a brother that I had a conversation with a few days ago. He's confused about who the Gentiles are. So after this series or these next couple episodes, I pray that someone gets some enlightenment about who are actually true Hebrew Gentiles versus true indeed non-Israelite Gentiles. There's a difference. When you have a Hebrew Gentile, that's just somebody who's forsaken the Torah, and he's welcome to come back into the fold, accept the Torah that he had in the beginning. A non-Israelite or non-Hebrew Gentile is someone who has to wait until prophecies unfold before he can come into the flock. And we're going to prove this by scripture. But before I get into it, I just want to give all praise to the Most High and give credit to where credit is due, because I too was unaware of Hebrew Gentiles. I too was brought up into the church or into the Christian church where I thought Gentiles always meant foreign nations. But big thank you to my brother who took the time to show me the precepts. He was patient. He was very wise in his approach. And he took the time to go over the precepts with me just to show you that those Gentiles that Paul was writing to were actually scattered Hebrew Israelites. They were not the true Gentiles, meaning non-Israelites. So we're going to spend the next couple of episodes giving you the breakdown of how we can prove that those Gentiles Paul was writing to were indeed Hebrews. But before we go into the breakdown, we have to give you the history. I keep telling my brothers and sisters inside the Christian churches, if you stay inside the New Testament and never go back and learn the history in the Old Testament, you're always going to be in error. You're never going to be able to match up those precepts like you're supposed to. You can't not just go to the New Testament and preach and teach a whole doctrine without tying it to the Old Testament. And we're going to show you why. So to get the understanding, we have to start in the Old Testament, and we're going to call our first witness to the stand. Is found in 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 2. It says, "Of the nations concerning which the Most High said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go into them, neither shall they come in unto you. For surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love." So the same nations the Most High told us to stay away from, King Solomon in his later days wind up marrying these strange women and worshiping idols unto their gods. So for his wickedness, this is what the Most High did. Verse 35. "But I will take the kingdom out of his son's hand and will give it unto you, even 10 tribes. So the Most High is telling Jeroboam, I'm going to take the kingdom from Solomon, but I'm not going to do it during Solomon's reign for David's sake. I'm going to do it to his son. When Solomon sleeps or dies, I'm going to take the kingdom from his son." And we find this out in verse 36. "And unto his son I will give one tribe, that David my servant may have a light always before me in Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen to put my name there." So here is where we get the first family strife. The Most High, because of Solomon's wickedness, he divides our kingdom into two kingdoms, northern tribes or Ephraim or Israel. And then to the bottom, to the south, we had Judah, which was made up of Benjamin and some of the Levites, and of course the tribe of Judah. So to call our next witness to the stand, we're going to go to the book of Hosea, Hosea chapter 1. And when we read Hosea's chapter, first chapter, we find where the northern kingdom, because of their constant disobedience, because they refused to come out of idol worship, they refused to come back to the Torah, the Most High pretty much called them bastards. He divorced them. And this is where the northern tribes, or Ephraim, or northern Israel, or the northern kingdom, they became Gentiles. So you can find this in Hosea chapter 1, and we'll start at verse 6. It says, "And she conceived again and bare a daughter. And the Most High said unto him, Call her name Lo Ruhamah, for I will no more have mercy upon the house of Israel, but I will utterly take them away." Now, when you read the house of Israel here, it's not the complete 12 tribes. It's the house of Israel, that the northern 10 kingdoms. So verse 7, it says, "But I will have mercy upon the house of Judah." See, house of Judah towards the south. He says, I'm going to have mercy on Judah. Continue on, he says, "And will save them by the Most High their power, and will not save them by bow, nor by sword, nor by battle, by horses, nor by horsemen." So the Most High here has given the verdict. I'm going to take the northern kingdom, or Ephraim, and I'm going to divorce them, but I'm going to have mercy on Judah. This is the eternal strife within our kingdom. This is the eternal strife even to this day. So verse 9, this is Hosea 1 and 9. "Then said the Most High, Call his name Lo-Ami, for ye are not my people, and I will not be your God or your power." So she bared another son. The first one was a daughter, and he says, call her name Lo Ruhamah, meaning I'm not going to have mercy on you. Then the same woman conceived again, and the Most High says, "Well, call this son Lo-Ami, for I will not be their God, they will not be my people." These children being born are representing the children of Israel to the north, the northern kingdom. So here we see the Most High says in verse 9, "For ye are not my people, I will not be your God." So, like I said, in the Old Testament, when you heard the word Gentiles, everybody knew. There was no confusion. When you heard the word Gentile, you knew they were talking about a strange nation other than Israel. But when we get to the New Testament, there's confusion. But let's precept Romans 9. Let's precept Romans 9, and we'll understand Paul's letter. And it said, this is Romans 9 and verse 26. This is Paul's letters to the so-called Romans, right? It says, let's start at 9 and 24. This is Romans 9 and 24. "Even unto them whom he hath called, not of the Jews only, but also of the Gentiles." Also of the Gentiles. So Paul is telling the people, he called the Jews too, the tribe of Judah, but he also called the Gentiles. And this is where the confusion comes, because people don't precept it with the Old Testament. But Paul goes on and explains himself right in verse 25. He says, "As he said in Hosea, I will call them my people, which were not my people, and her beloved, which was not my beloved." Verse 26. "And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, Ye are not my people, there shall they be called the children of the living God," or power. So Paul is not welcoming strangers into the Torah or to the laws and statutes. Paul is writing a letter to the Romans, so-called Romans, but he's writing it to scattered Israelites who are living in Rome. And for him to reference the Old Testament, Hosea, proves that point. No part in the Old Testament did these strange nations have a chance to come into the Torah. So there you have the first witness. Paul was talking to scattered Hebrew Israelites. You precept Hosea chapter 1, verses 6 through 9, and then you precept Romans 9, verses 24 through 28. This is part 1. Stay tuned for part 2. Shalom.